everybody. Hi. We are really excited. We're going to get started in about 1 or 2 more minutes, but I wanted to go ahead and just introduce myself. I'm Jessica Holman, and I'm the principal of Green Magnet STEAM Academy that is in Knoxville, Tennessee. And yay, woo! And with me presenting today, I have 2 of my most fabulous, amazing, wonderful, life-changing, innovative, I could go on all day, teachers with me. And y'all know, sometimes teachers, they're so good at what they do with presenting to the little people all day. And sometimes big people can be kind of scary. So some of us might be a little nervous, a lot of us might be a little shy. So can y'all show some love to Miss Adams and Mr. Albright? See, it's gonna be great. Look how warm and welcoming everyone is. Okay, and so I know this is the STEM conference, so we're all very scientific and we're very, data is important. So I want to collect some data. Raise your hand if you're glad that school's almost out. Yeah. Yes, same. Again, like I said, school principal, a little stressed out, a lot of stuff happening in the building, so I'd like to thank the folks at TSN for having this at the end of the year, so I have an excuse to leave my school. Thank you. Don't ever move this to October or anything. No, keep this baby in May, because that gives me a good time to say, bye, good luck with everything. All right, so that was enough. I told y'all I'd warm the crowd up. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. We're going to talk to you today about our school-wide STEAM days, 3 perspectives. And so we represent the 3 perspectives here. Actually, I got to give a shout out. We have several people from our school, our team here. Back in the back, that lady in the denim jacket, that's Sandy Morris. Everybody say hi, Sandy. Sandy is our STEAM magnet facilitator at our school. So she is in a unique role where she helps coordinate with students, with teachers, community partners, everything with our STEAM program. And then right here in the front, she's not part of the workshop, but Miss Neal, wave your hand. That is Miss Neal, Denise Neal. She is one of my assistant principals at Green. So she is my right-hand woman. She can do all things. She's amazing, so she's here for moral support. All right, so enough of that. I'm going to jump right in. So as you can see, that's who we are, and our workshop we are eager to provide today. So who are we? So I said we're from Knoxville. We're from Green Magnet STEAM Academy, which is a K through 5th grade Title I school that is located within the inner city area, so the more urban area of Knoxville. We're part of the Knox County school system, and we are a magnet school in our district. They have a few other magnet schools, and our school, it has a dedicated STEAM focus. Most of our students that attend our school come from the surrounding school zone, but we do have a good number of students who attend our school who are on a magnet transfer, and they come in from all various areas of the county. We do have approximately 350 students. Our population is transient, so that fluctuates. I think at last count it may have been 355, so it's kind of in that range. This is actually going to change a little bit next year, but right now we have 4 classes at each grade level. Next year, we're going down to 3 4th grade classes and 3 5th grade classes, but all the other grade levels have 4. And we had our big moment last year when we came to TSN and were awarded with the STEM designation of last year. And is there anybody in the room today that was awarded it today? Anywhere? Woo! Yes. Congratulations, that is a big, big honor, and you all have worked very hard to achieve that, so way to go. All right, so today, what we're going to go through during our workshop is talk to you a little bit about who we are, our history of doing STEAM days at Green Magnet, different perspectives, and that's kind of like the bulk of what's driving what we're going to talk about today is how do we do this, and then what are the 3 different kind of perspectives on doing this if you want to try this at your school. Again, brainstorming how this could work in your school, and then asking questions. And then we're going to have some share-out time if we have time available at the end on what you're already doing in your school or in your district that could lead others to success. Okay. So this next one is about why investing. Why is investing in STEAM days important? Because it does require an investment of your resources, with time being one of them, because you'll need planning time for teachers. You will need instructional time, and also there is a financial cost to when we do these. But the investment is well worth it. What we've seen in our school from doing these STEAM days is it greatly enhances the existing culture of STEAM in our building. And we'll get more into that later about exactly how it does that, but that's the number one benefit we've seen from that. It creates and builds a sense of community, so within your school, but also the wider community surrounding your school. It's very powerful when your entire school organizes and implements a STEAM-focused day around a particular topic or a community problem or something, and every student in your building is doing that. And then, of course, the students love it. It's engaging. It's exciting. Our students know that when we have these days, that they're going to get to do STEAM all day long, a STEAM integrated day all day long. And a little bit about how we started doing this, and I think this probably will show up a little later on, but Knox County school system this school year started doing early release days. So like 6 days on the school calendar for the whole year were designed where the students came in. The instructional day for elementary was like 7:45 to 12:15, and then they had dismissal, and then the rest of the day is for teacher planning, teacher PD, that kind of thing. And so our school leadership team and our STEAM leadership team decided early on we wanted to make those days STEAM days because, it's kind of, our teachers were like, what do we do with that? It's not a full day of instruction, so we don't want to really, and we're probably going to have a lot of kids absent. We don't want to teach new content if half the kids are going to miss it. So it was kind of one of those, like, what could we do to really plug into our STEAM theme, but also take care of just that problem of what do you do with a weird sort of half-day situation. But we learned through that it also encourages attendance. Because kids, they knew we were doing this, and they got excited about it, and they would talk to their parents and say, hey, I got to go to school tomorrow, because I get to be, an archaeologist, so I'm coming to school, that kind of thing. It was a lot of fun. Okay, so a little more digging into this a little deeper. We started doing 1 week, so we would have, and I think this was a couple of school years ago, we did a STEAM week. And so we dedicated 1 day a week to a different silo of STEAM. And that was great. That was a really good start. The same lesson was taught for the whole school, and like I said, it was taught with a daily silo focus. And there were multiple collaborators that worked together to plan that, to provide the materials, to organize it. And so where we are now was kind of what I had mentioned earlier about those early release STEAM days. Our district has 6 of those early release days on the calendar, and a possible 7, so of course we could do another one of those. And there were differentiated lessons, but with the same topic and focus. Because you guys know, as educators, what you might do for K and 1 students will not necessarily work for the 3rd, 4th, and 5th students, and so on. So there are differentiated lessons, but it's the same theme school-wide. And then it integrated multiple standards, which, as you guys know, as STEM and STEAM teachers and leaders and advocates, that's the best way to do it, is that true integration model where you are pulling together a culmination of the different standards from the different content areas. And again, multiple collaborators. So at Green, I am a huge, huge, huge believer in shared leadership. And coaches, instructional coaches, teachers, administrators, everyone, we try to make decisions in a collaborative manner as much as we can. We plan collaboratively as much as we can, and I believe that grows a better, more innovative and creative school, because you have a lot of brains helping and working and contributing. So we love that multiple collaboration piece. Okay, now we're going to talk. Is this you, Miss Adams? Let's give it one more time for Miss Adams. She is going to talk you guys through the planning piece.
So with planning STEAM days, we do a lot of different types of models, and it's sometimes overwhelming, but it's not undoable. You have to use collaborators. I pushed the wrong button. There we go. So where do these ideas come from, that ideation piece? We do use real-world experiences, so I often think, like, what's happening right now? And with Perseverance, that was the Mars landing that happened last spring or last spring. It was a while ago now. But with Perseverance, the Mars rover, my kids were really engaged in that. They wanted to know more about Perseverance and the Mars landing. So we use that real-world experience to bring in a question. How can we create, the model of things. How can we create the model of Perseverance? That way we can understand it a little bit more. And then our ideation is student-driven. This year I did not want to do trash and show. I did that last year, and that was hard, and there was a lot of pieces, and it was overwhelming. But then a fourth grader came up to me, a former fourth grader, now fifth grader, she goes, Miss Adams, we're doing trash and show. I'm like, no, we don't really have time for it. No, we're doing it. Oh, great. I'll get right on that. And then we also use books. So we use Papa's Mechanical Fish as one of our books to drive our STEAM day. And this ended up being a huge community piece as well, where the students looked at transportation, because that is a struggle that our community faces often. So that was really cool for our students. But then those models for planning. So sometimes it is just me alone, especially when there's no time. I don't have time to go and collaborate. I don't have time and go and ask, hey, what standards are you covering right now? What are you covering? Let's try and make that work across grade levels. So sometimes it is just me. I am one person. I was also in grad school. It is doable. You can do it. So even though that seems overwhelming and daunting, it's not. So I planned specifically the Mars rover lesson like I had talked about, and then the fossils lesson. This was probably my favorite STEAM day ever. This is where the students got to, the idea came from, I was opening up a book and I'm like, okay, I need ideas right now, because STEAM day is next week, and I was doing a great job in my life. So we did, so I found a book and it was about fossils, and one of my friends is a paleontologist. She was like, this is the coolest thing ever. Why are you not doing this? Great. So Haley just told me like all the background information that I needed to know, and then we put it together. And while Haley's not an educator, Haley had all of that background information that I needed so we could get it out and get it rolling to our kids. The STEAM team, which is a group of educators from our school, we have a grade level representative for each grade. I realized I said that. And an encore person, and then we also have administration and coaches who come together, and we plan together the larger-than-life candy sculptures, where we got to look at art, and then we had to ask a question. And this ended up driving us into our STEAM Fling, which is like our big STEAM celebration at the end of each semester, where students get to share what they've learned throughout the semester. And then our counselor and I worked on community cares, where we looked at problems within our community. The Encore team and I got together and we did the requested trash and show. And we had a lot of arts integration in coding and robotics with that. And then Jake and I actually, with Aaron, who's a second grade teacher, worked on snow day, where the students had to figure out, what can we do on a snow day? How are we going to fix this problem of a snow day is kind of boring, we're stuck inside, what else can we do? So the students got to work through that problem as well. So this is the planning template for how we do this, and it's based on the NIET model with the five-step lesson plan, with the hook, new learning, develop, assessment, reflection. Within that, I've also added that art piece because we do want to expose our students to art, the careers, and then the learning intentions and success criteria. Am I good to go on? Okay. Sorry, do I need to go back? Hold on, I can do this. And then we have materials because STEAM days take a lot of work in order to get all of the materials passed out and collected and going because students are engineering, kindergarten through 5th grade, 350 students are solving a problem on this day. So we often look at where do we get those materials. Sometimes I tell teachers like, hey, you need to get these materials ready. I don't have enough for everyone. But our teachers have a lot already. We're hoarders. We also have stashed materials in our hallways where students can go and visit the makerspace bins is what we call them, and they're all over our building, and students can go there and teachers can go there and use those resources as well. And then we do have magnet funds because we are a magnet school. Students will volunteer during recess to help pass out those materials, which is really nice. And then our STEAM team teachers help as well because some things you don't give to kids to do. And then we also front load our teachers to make sure they know what they need. So now I'm going to push this over to Jake, who's going to talk about the instruction piece now that you know about the planning piece.
Thank you so much. All right, so Danielle does such a fantastic job working with others and even doing this by themselves, planning these STEAM days. But what does that look like when it comes to a teacher's perspective? How do you, as a teacher, take this to your classroom and implement it? So, before I go on to that, I just want you to take a look at this. Those are all the standards that elementary teachers and students are expected to have by the end of the year. And I do give you permission just to say a little scream, just freak out just a little bit. It is a lot. It's a lot of work. And specifically, I'm a 3rd grade teacher, so in 3rd grade, we have 122 standards that we have to get these kids exposed to by the end of the year. It's crazy. Especially 3rd grade, we're getting them ready for that test. I could freak out. But as a 3rd grade teacher, as someone who does this every day, and I feel like everybody in this room knows that STEAM is instruction. And especially these days that Danielle and the team work to really plan, they're rigorous. They expose students to these standards and they really give them an idea of, hey, I am having fun on these days, but I'm also learning. So I want to walk you through, Danielle mentioned that one of her favorite STEAM days that we did this past year was the fossils lesson. So I'm gonna walk you through, if you were able to have access to that plan, you can follow along kind of as I'm looking at what this STEM day looks like. You can follow along with that plan to see for yourself. So, again, fossils. So it was really important for our students. Again, sometimes we come and students don't have a lot of background knowledge on these topics. Sorry, no, you're good. So, no, you're good. So we started the day off by just having students figure out what are fossils, what is a paleontologist, really bringing in that background knowledge and hooking them in to want to participate in this topic. Okay, so after that, again, we did some more specific instruction on okay, so a paleontologist digs up fossils, but what does that actually look like? What is a fossil? So we had some video, we had time for students to turn and talk about what they already know, and again, building that background knowledge so that we can continue into the instruction for the day.
Another reason why that piece was really important is because kindergarten through 5th grade does not have fossil standards. So my 2nd graders, sorry.
You're good.
So my 2nd graders, sorry, I don't do this. So my 2nd graders have no clue what a fossil is, or fossils are dinosaurs, but they're not. So this is a really widespread miscommunication and a misunderstanding of our students. So by having this little piece in there, gave everyone the same access point so everyone can come into this lesson successfully. So sometimes that is a really important part to think about. I'm planning this day for kindergarten through 5th grade. What do the littles need, but also what do the bigs need? And you'll get to see that differentiation come for the bigs in just a minute.
Thank you. That was really important. I'm glad you added on to that. So after we introduced what fossils are, we went into actually letting the students dig for fossils. Again, bringing in that background knowledge of what a paleontologist does. You'll see a picture in just a few minutes, but this was a really fun activity where we had a big sand pit and the students actually got to use like brushes and tools to dig out the fossils and identifying them from the sand, which is a really cool activity. So now that we've kind of built that background knowledge, we've introduced what is a fossil to these students, then we went into our imagine, right? Again, learning some more about fossils. Why are they important? Why do we care about them? And then all these lessons are guided by our EDP, the engineering design process. So you'll see this is where students did the imagine. So students got to work together in groups, and they did some research over a specific type of fossil. So you'll see those up there. I'm not going to try to say them because I looked it up before the lesson and I don't remember how to say it. So they actually worked together to say, hey, like, what is this fossil? Where did it come from? And some important pieces right here, we had them looking for, where did this animal or plant live? What habitat did they live in? Did they live in a group or alone? And other interesting things, so that students had more access and more details about that fossil. All right, so then they got to use that information, and we had students writing an informational paragraph over the fossil. So again, they got to work with their partners based on the research that they did, bringing it in and writing that paragraph. All right, so we've moved out of Imagine. They've done some research. They've done some brainstorming. Here is our plan. So students on this day were tasked with taking that fossil and building a model, not of the fossil, but of the living thing that came, or the fossil came from, which was really exciting. So students had to kind of work backwards and make sure they had all that information before they could start designing. And so the students really did love this process. They got to work together and draw it out and use the materials. They had like clay and toothpicks and just different things so that they can represent the research that they did. All right, so then they got to actually create it, which is really exciting. So we took some time out for that piece as well. And then we also had this opportunity for students to draw a habitat model to go along with their no longer fossiled animal. So, all that to say, that was all planned by Danielle, and it was an amazing day. The students were engaged. They had so much fun. There was rigor and instruction involved. And I just want to show you, just from doing that, just from that day alone, I found evidence of all of these standards that were included in that. That's one day. And I'm a teacher. I do this. I know. It was so powerful, right? But if you do look at this, you see there are some gaps. And so as a teacher, I had to think, okay, we have this overall plan of what the whole school is doing. How could I use my content of knowledge and content of students to really push my students further and make this day even more rigorous and engaging for them? So these are just a couple of ideas, some things that I did, and I'm sure there are many amazing educators who had some awesome ideas as well as you were going through this. So here we go. One thing that we were able to do is, yes, here's the picture of the sand pit that the students got to excavate and dig in. Something I did to kind of differentiate a little bit for third grade standards is bringing in those coordinates. So we were able to section that off, and students had to find the coordinate to dig in, which again, bringing in some of those social studies standards that might have not been there for the whole school, but is specific to us. After that, graphing. That's a big one for third grade, trying to front load as much as possible for them to have access to that graphing. So how many plant fossils did you see? How many animal fossils did you see? And putting that on a graph together. My class did that specifically. We all did it together. So it was, again, kind of introducing that graphing idea before we actually taught it in a lesson in math. Landforms and bodies of water. Another big one that was really important. So as students were researching, we had already talked about this. What landform would your animal have lived on? What body of water would they have lived in? Again, pushing in that piece to really give them some more access to that information. And then another thing that we did, students were given a cookie and they had to use tools to excavate and try to find the fossils in the cookie, which is also really cool. And bringing in some more of that idea that, oh, we're on a mountain or we're on a plain or whatever landform that you choose, and bringing in that idea as well. And then finally, our guidance counselor, she dressed up like a dinosaur because we're paleontologists. We have to study dinosaurs, right? And so something really easy that she did was she came in and read a book about dinosaurs, right? Asking and answering questions, sequence of events, giving students some access to those literature standards as well. So easy, right? You don't have to put a lot of thought into it. Just read a book and ask them and answering questions and sequencing and main idea, and all those things can come in on this day as well. So now let's take a look. Not only do we have science and ELA standards included in this, but it's so easy to bring in math and social studies as well on these days. So it might seem daunting at first if you're like, oh my gosh, I don't have time. I really don't have time to do all this. I have so many things to get these students prepared for, but it's really easy and it's so beneficial. Again, high rigor, high engagement, it's incredible. It really does work and the students love it. So that was me, a third grade teacher who does this every single day. I'm gonna pass it over back to Ms. Holman, and she's gonna talk about what does this look like for a school as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, thanks, Mr. Albright. All right, so from a leadership standpoint, if you're thinking, okay, how can I get my school, what needs to happen? How do I get there? That's where I come in. So one of the things, and I feel like I'm preaching to the choir, because if you're at the TSIN conference, you probably are one of the leaders in this for your school. So I don't want you guys to assume, I don't want to assume that you guys are not already experts in this. But that culture of STEAM is super important. This quote from Chris Woods, who, by the way, is amazing. If you have never heard of him, write his name down, write this book down. This is a great book, and I'm not paid for this. I'm not advertising for Chris Woods. I don't work for him or anything. I did meet him. He's amazing. But if you want to do a book study with your staff, or even with your grade level, or even just you, I highly recommend the Daily STEM, because Chris Woods is a teacher himself. He is not some fancy consultant that taught 5 months back in 1986. This guy is an actual real teacher right now who happens to be super passionate about STEM. And he also will come out and do PD with your teachers. He's amazing. This book is great because it's a user-friendly, it is written by a teacher for teachers. And as you're reading this book, you can get all sorts of ideas and tips and quick things you can do in your classroom the very next day for little to no money about how to build that STEAM culture in your classroom or your school. So anyway, the quote you see on the screen, I love it. I have it in my office. It's been up all year. But we firmly believe this at Green, that it's not a class you go to. It's not a 1 or 2 day STEAM days a year. It's not these great integrated STEAM days. It's not that. It's the culture. It's every single day. And everything that you do, it shows up everywhere. So that's what we believe STEM is, and I know that you guys do too. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. So the why behind it is that this has allowed us to truly live out our STEAM values and mindset for every child within every learning environment in the school. So it's a beautiful thing to watch my ELL teachers push in and directly sit and support their English language learners within the classroom as they're doing these activities. They're pushing in, they're supporting them right there through all these pieces. We're not pulling them out and saying, yeah, hey, you can't do this. STEM's not for you. STEM is for every single soul in our building. Our special ed teachers, they have a rotation. They push in and they support their students in the classroom. So they're learning alongside their peers. They're engaging in these highly engaged STEM activities, and it's a beautiful thing. From a leadership standpoint, we, as principals, if there's any administrators in the room, we have to create these conditions for this to happen. So that might mean that you're going to do things differently than what other principals in your district do. And I know that sometimes that can be kind of, difficult and whatnot, and there's politics, and there's supervisors and school boards and people you don't want to piss off. I did say a bad word. Is that a bad word? It kind of is. I don't know. I feel like that's unprofessional to say that in a conference, but anyway, it came out. But I get that you have to kind of do that little dance and say, but part of being a STEM leader is just having those strong convictions and saying, hey, this is good for kids. Come check it out. Come check us out. Tell that person at your school district that's giving you y'all shouldn't be doing STEM. Yep, come see it. Come help out. Put them in a kindergarten room. They'll be terrified. Yeah, they'll cut that out real quick. Definitely support your people. So this is one of those things that as leaders, our actions have to really match our words. So like you can't tell teachers you value innovation and you value curiosity and you value all those beautiful STEM things, but then get mad when somebody asks you a question. Or get mad if your fourth grade team comes to you and says, hey, we were at our planning meeting the other day, and we thought it would be really cool if, fill in the blank. And then if as a principal you shut that down and be like, no, I'm the boss, how they bring me to that, then you're not really modeling innovation. Yeah. You have to make sure your actions match. And like one of the beautiful things about Green is that, again, I love shared leadership. It's all about all the voices in the room collaborating together to create something meaningful and amazing for kids. This is kind of a little sidebar. One of my favorite things, so often at my school, and I joke because this happens to me all the time, sometimes parents and like other people in the community, they come to the school and they don't know I'm the principal. And I love that for a couple of reasons. Number one, if somebody's really angry and they're all coming in cussing and all hot and bothered, I can be like, all right, I'm going to go to the cafeteria and read to kids. I'll see y'all later. I don't know what's going on over there. So there's that. But then there's also, it makes me smile because that means that they see the beauty of collaborative shared leadership. I mean, now, okay, at the end of the day, everybody does know, okay, the buck stops with the principal. Yes, everybody gets that. Nobody's trying to take over my job. But there's so much collaboration, there's so much value for teachers and teacher leaders and having a voice and play, like it is amazing, and that has been critical to us building this positive STEAM culture in our school. It's okay to fail. It most certainly is, because that's where we learn. That's where those lessons are. So again, that's one of those things that as principals, our actions have to match our words. We can't tell teachers, yeah, it's okay to fail, try it. And then you write somebody up because they did a lesson and it didn't go right. That's not good. So make sure you're doing those things. That's kind of from the leadership standpoint. And modeling that innovator's mindset and growth mindset yourself. A lot of principals and leaders, and I can say this because I'm friends with a lot of them, they don't like to do this. Because a lot of us are used to being the top dog and having all the answers and being the big bad administrator coming in the room and knowing everything and telling people what to do. And so it takes a lot of vulnerability to stand there and say, hey, y'all, we're going to try this and it may not work. I don't know. Let's see how it turns out. And a lot of people think I'm crazy because I'll stand up in front of my staff and say just that. I'll be like, hey, y'all, we're going to try this. We're going to give it our all, hope it works out. And if it does, great, and we celebrate and name what helped it be successful, because that's also a lesson. But if it didn't, that's also a lesson. So that's kind of how I look at things. All right, and what can it do for your school? It generates that excitement and the best day ever moments. Kids are so excited when we do this. They love it. They're not going to remember that random worksheet or that one question on TCAP that they thought was just so meaningful and awesome. Oh man, did you see that graph on the TCAP, dude? It was so great. No, they're not going to say that. Nope. And teachers, y'all better not be looking at that test because you could go to jail for that. Oh Okay, back to the conference. Okay. They will remember these STEAM days 10 years from now, though. They talk about it all the time. They're eager to show off what they've designed. It's great. It unifies the entire school and community because every kid, K-5, English language learner, special ed IEP student, 504, everybody's doing this. Everybody is accessing this great learning, and it really brings everybody together. Parents are talking about it. And it ensures those inclusive practices. Again, I've been talking about that, making sure that every student is a part of this, and that those special education and ELL teachers push in. Encore teachers are collaborating with the general education teachers, and your whole school community is working collaboratively and collectively to help this be a success. And again, it's all about what the kids need, and so it's just a beautiful thing. I feel like I've already gone over this, but there it is again. Thank you, Miss Adams. Great. Okay, so yes, this is similar to the. I see that now. The column you want to focus on is that third one there because that is where we started, where we currently are in the middle, and then where we hope to go in the future. So we've seen so many positive outcomes from doing this. As we move forward in the future, we want to maybe see about doing these once a month, okay? Providing those differentiated lessons with the same topic and focus, integrating those standards. We are getting a new reading curriculum this coming school year, and so we're seeing that as an opportunity to provide the common themes that go along with the new reading curriculum. So our school, and I know several schools probably in the room use this curriculum, we're going to Benchmark Advance. And the units in Benchmark Advance are all consistent for every grade level with the pacing. So we're going to push into that, lean into that for that. And then multiple collaborators. So you've heard us talk about our STEAM team, which is a leadership team dedicated just for our STEAM program. Teachers, made up of teachers, admin, a parent representative. So everybody's going to be working together to plan this. Our STEAM Engineering Design Lab teachers part of that team, so all hands on deck to make that happen. Okay, looks like we're to the questions. Is anybody? Oh, okay, yes, I saw your hand first. Oh, it's so cool. Who wants to talk about the trash and show? Okay.
So the Trash and Show is an opportunity where students get to experience recycling and using those materials in a different way, and they have to create fashion out of trash. This was inspired by the book One Plastic Bag by a really great author whose name I cannot think right now, and I'm really sorry for that. But my librarian came up to me and she was like, "Hey, we need to do a trash and show." What's that? And she was so excited about this because one of our parents at the time was actually a model on the runway for a trash and show in Knoxville. Yeah. A really good book. And then, so that day, the fourth and fifth graders did trash and show. The third graders did the coded dance with the light suits. And that was collaborated with our coding and robotics teacher. And then the K through 2 friends, they got to work on their fine motor skills because we don't do that often enough. And they just got to practice braiding. And then they were given one plastic bag, and they had to create from that one plastic bag. And if you go backwards, this one. So these are our first graders who had created fashion out of their trash. The little girl up in the top corner, you'll see a cute little hair clip. We have a necklace. There's a couple of dresses, and I can't tell what the last little one is. Oh. Yeah, so sometimes we fail, and that's okay. But this was just a really fun this was really fun, but the students also got to experience that real world piece of like, hey, plastic is not that great for our world. And they got to have that passion and that excitement for that. Yes.
So if you guys are wanting to do this once a month, I'm guessing that'll be during a regular school day. How do you guys balance that, like, throughout that whole day? Like, what does that look like to take an entire day to incorporate that in each lesson? Like, how does that work for you guys?
No, I think it goes back to the idea of, I mean, we're still having recess and lunch, and so we're really just filling that instructional time. But again, Danielle does a really good job of, as the engineering design lab teacher, kind of planning that for us and kind of giving us an idea of where to go. And we usually have a lot of that stuff could have easily taken much more than a day, what I showed you, right? Like, again, building that background knowledge, you can really dive into that, giving them even more research time. With that, it was really easy to fill the day and could have probably filled 2 days, right? It goes back to that engagement again, too. When students are excited, they want to keep going and want to keep doing it. So again, from that teacher perspective, that was a really good, could have easily kept going. And on those, what do we call them, early release days, we don't have that recess time either. So that time would have been eliminated in a school day anyway. So it kind of evens out there as well. Okay. Yes. Okay, so for the coded dance, the inspiration came from our coding robotics teacher. And so the students, I cannot remember the name of the dance crew, Scratch Dance Crew. So they are a dance crew that creates... Scratch is the coding platform, not the dance crew. So they do this dance crew. I'm sure you can look it on YouTube. They were like on America's Got Talent or something. And so they have these black suits and they put lights on them. So we purchased just mini LED strip lights, which are super cheap. And so the students got to like glue them onto the outfits and make different accessories like hats and glasses and stuff. And they got to, from the coded dance, like they had to go and perform their coded dance, which was really a lot of fun. Yeah. The kids wrote, yeah. Yeah.
When you have the half day, do your students rotate to different rooms, or are they in their one singular room doing the entire day?
Great question. We've done it different ways, right? So there was when Danielle and I worked on the Snowy Day, I don't remember if that was based off the book, A Snowy Day, and so we talked about kind of transportation on that day. So we had some rotations. We had the Department of Transportation come out to our school, and so we got to go see like a truck that lays salt and like a bulldozer that like plows. Obviously, I don't do that. So like that was a rotation. Another time, I think it... Yeah, so they've transitioned to her room, and it really just depends, but we have done it all the ways. That particular fossil one, they were with me all day long doing that, yeah. Well, just kidding, there's one right behind you.
Okay, that's fine, thank you. Who's the one that's differentiating for each grade level? Because my school does a STEM day once a month, but we do not do one challenge. Each grade level does a different challenge that's aligned to their curriculum. So how does that all work with differentiating for like the littles versus the bigs?
Do you want to talk about that? Yeah.
A lot of times that goes with, so when I have this idea, I'm like, okay, but how does this work in little kid land, and how does this work in big kid land? Because those are two different lands, and I lived in middle kid land of 2nd and 3rd grade as a teacher, so they're scary. But I use those teachers and I just ask them like, hey, what does this look like? With the new curriculum, that will be much easier because everyone's doing plants for these 3 weeks, and then everyone's doing space. I don't know what the next, I just know the plants started. So we're able to work through that. We'll be able to do that next year together. But on these days, they're typically just like, hey, what do our kids want to learn? Or what book has inspired us? Or what topic is happening real right now? And then we're able to differentiate it throughout the grades. a lot of that goes back to teacher knowledge of students and just what they need. But I would suggest, like, for your next step, since you're already starting it and you already have that structure in place for once a month, looking at the full day, because the next day, when I was in second grade and we did the silos of STEAM Day, the next day my kids came to me and they're like, hey, last night at dinner, my brother also did the windmill. And then they were telling me all about the windmill and the discussion that they had. And their mom was even in on this discussion because she was like, what do you mean a windmill? We had, what's the book? William? Yes. Good job. We had that book, and that was our K-5 book. But my second grader and his fifth grade brother they got to experience that. But the discussion at home was so rich. And the next day when my kid came back to me and shared that with me, I literally had tears in my eyes because I'm like, you're talking at home about school. Yeah. Because that's hard. Sometimes they don't want to share that. When it's mundane, there's none of that newness. And we want to make sure we keep it new for our kids.
What is a design lab teacher?
I'm the design lab teacher. It's kind of like a STEM lab, except I have the kids all day long. I am not in the encore rotation. We do the EDP, the engineering design process, in the entire day. It is 90% of the time connected to what they're doing in the classroom. So before that lesson, I will go to the teachers, or I get on their plan books, because that's really fun, and look up and see, what are you learning about? What do your kids need? There was one lesson that I was really passionate about. I wanted to do the water cycle, and Jake and his team had said, no. We've had enough water cycle this year. We don't need any more water cycle. We do need natural disasters. Oh, that was great. It was something. But so the design lab teacher is just a different structure of the STEM lab. I don't know how else to explain this.
Yeah. No, you're good. You're doing great. So what Ms. Adams said, but I'd like to add on, when students go to the design lab, they spend a full day in there and they rotate through roughly about every 5 to 6 weeks. They'll have in there. And one of the great side effects of how we do it is that it's kind of like on-site, in-the-moment professional development for our gen ed teachers, because they are in the design lab with Danielle. They don't drop their kids off and have a free day of planning, although I'm sure some of them would love that, but they don't do it. They go in there with Miss Adams. They co-teach the kids together. So that gen ed teacher every 5 to 6 weeks is getting that exposure of all things STEM, all things STEAM, all things engineering design process, because and that's one of the things that we realized over time, and while we have it scheduled that way where she's not in the encore rotation, because you can't go through all of the phases of the engineering design process in a 45-minute window. It's just not going to happen, not for something meaningful. And so they spend the whole day in there so that they have, from start to finish, they go through all those processes. And Ms. Adams is a completely phenomenal teacher. I'm glad I took the mic because you would not say that. And she really works hard to plan with the teachers to make sure it's standards aligned, to make sure it's fully STEAM integrated, because we are a STEAM school. And so she has an art piece that she pulls in that works its way into whatever their topic of study is for that day. So it really is something special. Now, if you're sitting here thinking, well, how do I get an engineering design lab position at my school? I can't answer that for you, because that's between you and your local school board and your superintendent. I can't answer that for you. I can tell you that because we are a magnet school, that's why we have a couple of those extra positions like that. The other elementary schools in our county don't, because we're the only STEAM magnet school. So we have her position, and we also have a coding and robotics teacher that is part of our encore rotation. And so all of our students learn about robotics and writing code each week when they go to that encore class. And there's also integration happening there. So like our code and robotics teacher will team up and teach with our PE teacher for a few weeks. Or she might team up with our art teacher for a few weeks. And so a lot of that kind of stuff going on. I hope I answered. Oh, that was you. Miss Neal, you told us at lunch you were going to heckle us, and we thought you were kidding, but look at you. Anybody else? Okay. Okay, sorry. I think we need to use the mic because of the online participants, so I'm going to pass that to you.
How long did you say your time was with the kids?
I get them all day long. So they still go to lunch, encore, the special areas, intervention, recess. They still do those things, but they get to come to me from 8 o'clock in the morning, so they do their morning meeting because that's really important for our culture. And then they stay with me until 2:30, and then they'll go back to their classrooms. How many are in there all day? Of my students? Yes. Like a whole class. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, our class sizes range from like 15 to 20 students. So, and then there's 2 teachers in there all day long because tape with kindergartners. That is fun. Okay, we're done talking. I don't remember what this.
That's okay. That's okay. Thank you, guys. And you feel free to take a picture of that or scan that QR code. Follow us on Twitter. Our school's Twitter is amazing. I don't run it, which is why it's amazing. Thank you. We hope y'all learned something today. Have a great day. Have a great rest of the conference. Thank you. Thank you.